Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are back for more coaching corner connections, whichever you call it, wherever you see it.
Oh, let me close my door.
Oh, okay, cool. Today we're doing something to the effect of making yourself smaller or not doing that anymore. But I feel like you should start since you had something you were going to tell me that inspired this whole thing.
Yeah, so let me just tell y'all the story. Okay, so gosh, this was one day last week, yeah?
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah, so one day last week. My partner had a very stressful day at work. He works from home, so day at home, but like within the work realm, right? And so he was like not necessarily grumpy, right? Like he wasn't being grumpy with me or anything, but like he just wasn't in a good headspace. And so he wasn't like fun and bubbly and chipper or any of those things. And I could tell I was like having some feelings, but I could not figure out what the feelings were. And at one point he was like, "What's going on with you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm just like cooking dinner and the kids are stressing me out." And like, cause dinner time is such a stressful time of day with children. And he was like, okay. And then as the evening went on, like I found myself like not really engaging with him. Like he still had a lot of work to do and he like took time away from work to come and have dinner with us as a family. And but I like wasn't talking to him a lot and wasn't really engaging with him. And after dinner was over and he went back to doing work stuff, actually he didn't. He like poured himself a drink and got his music and like went and sat on the back patio while I did bedtime and everything for the kids. And I was like, why am I so bothered right now? Like, what is going on? Why am I feeling like I wish he was giving me more attention when like logically none of this has anything to do with me? And so it took me like 45 minutes of thinking about it. And I realized that what I was doing was I was trying to make myself smaller and stay out of his way and like not talk to him. So I didn't make it worse. And then by not talking to him and staying out of his way, then I was sad that he wasn't interacting with me when I was the one not interacting with him, right? So while I was putting the kids to bed, I had this realization. So I texted him, even though I knew I was going to see him in a few minutes. And I was like, I just realized that I'm trying to make myself smaller right now and stay out of your way. So that way I don't make it worse. And he was like, wow, that is so interesting. Also, that's the exact opposite of what I want because you make things better. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I had this realization. I'm like, I can only assume that it came from my childhood. I don't have any like specific memories of like, no, I don't have any stories I could tell that like back this up. But then when I was telling a friend about it, she was like, oh my God, you just blew my mind because until you were telling me this story, I didn't realize that's what I did with my ex-boyfriend for years. Like, yeah. But then I was like so proud of myself for like, oh my God, it took 45 minutes to figure out what was going on. But I was proud of myself for like wanting to explore and not just being like, why weren't you giving me more attention or brushing the whole thing under the rug and pretending like nothing happened.
Right. I am proud of you too, by the way. I have a very similar experience. The only difference that I notated in mine is that mine typically only shows up with men. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that men are traditionally just very when they have their feelings, because anger is the only feeling they're allowed to have, they get angry, they get aggressive, they get loud, and that is inherently scary, like all on its own, even if it's somebody who's never actually done you harm. There are very few times that because usually, like typically it's another woman, I'm able to come in and be like, hey, let's talk. Let's,
Right. Like you just poke and explore to try and see. Yeah.
But for me, as soon as that anger, aggression, that loud frustration, that, as soon as that shows up, then I'm like already retreating. I'm like, well, nope, I'm out of here. Fight or flight kicks in. But have you ever seen that meme where it's like, trying to explain to my partner that it's their mood has changed, even though they haven't said anything or done anything, their disposition, their mood has changed. And if you've never had somebody angrily fold a sock at you, and that's what it feels like that's it, it's the same feeling.
I've not seen it, but I know it.
It's like, please stop angrily folding the socks at me. And it's the perfect illustration because socks are quiet. They're fabric. You don't hear anything, but the person.
And it was interesting in this situation because like I knew exactly why he was upset and it had zero to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a little bit. And still I was like,
I've never done that before. That's honor.
So I don't want him to have a bad day again soon, but at the same time, like I want the next one to happen so that way I can be like, oh, I recognize that this is happening. What would I like to do differently? And then I'm curious how difficult it will be for me.
So what helps me, because I mean, I've been in this situation before too, is remembering that like they are experiencing their feelings and they need support and love too.
Right.
And so like keeping in mind that this is how I can show that I support them by not retreating, even though it feels uncomfortable to me, makes it easier to just stay and be. And especially if you can get to a point where like you can conversate about it and be like, okay, when you're in this, what is the most helpful thing to do? Do you want me to carry on conversation like nothing's going on as a distraction? Do you want quiet support? Do you want
imagine that asking somebody what kind of support do you need in this situation? What would you like from me? So that way I can actually make sure I'm showing up for you the way you need and want.
Right? It's such a, I don't know, mind-blowing thought to just ask. And I'm not even being sarcastic. It really is.
Really, like, y'all saw my mind be blown.
I remember that though. The first time I ever asked you, did you ask? And you were just like, wait, what? I don't know what this thing is. But yeah, it's so common, and especially for people assigned female at birth, especially for people, that this is a shared experience that so many people immediately know what you're talking about. They know that retreat, they know that stay out of the way, they know that shrink down to itty bitty living space. I always think of Aladdin. Phenomenal cosmic powers. Itty bitty living space.
I love that.
But then it's like, how do we recognize it, we understand it, we've experienced it on a large scale. How do we shift it and change it on a large scale? Like, how do we make this not the norm?
Right.
And I think that's where all of it comes into play, like your boundaries, and like, because it's totally fine. Like if your person is experiencing that kind of thing and you are so uncomfortable that you cannot offer them support right then, it is perfectly acceptable to set a boundary that says, hey, I need to go take some space for me so that I can reset and realign and whatever. But then the communication plays in and the autonomy plays in, and then it's all there. And like, I think probably if I had to pick, I'd say personal responsibility is the biggest, because yes, your human is having a hard day and they're stressed or whatever is going on with them. But it's also still on them not to make it your problem.
Yeah.
And so like in this case, that wasn't what was happening, but so often that's how we get to that, is because somebody else had a bad day and made it our problem. And we learned that things go better if we shrink and move out of the way. And
then I had the thought, once I identified it and was like, I feel like this has to come from my childhood somewhere. And then I was like, oof, what are the things that I do and say without even realizing it to my children when I'm having a bad day?
mm-hmm. Did you come up with anything useful?
I mean, what's your definition of useful in this situation?
Something that you can recognize that you can now do differently so that they don't grow up with the same feeling and experience.
Explicitly tell them I'm having a bad day. Give them some relevant details for context that are, age appropriate, and let them know that, like, so this means that, like, I'm grumpy right now, but it's because of these other things happening and it doesn't have to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, when they experience me being grumpy, even if I haven't said, like, stay out of my way, I'm having a bad day, but like, I've seen that thing going around the internet for years now where it's like, my responses to my children have more to do with how I'm feeling emotionally than it has anything to do with them and what they're doing. And so if I'm able to recognize, like, I've got big things going on that have nothing to do with my kids, it's okay to clue them in on that. Don't unload on them.
Right. We're not doing that. That's bad.
No, your children are not your friends. But let them know that, hey, my mind is distracted because something happened. I'm thinking about something else. It's got me feeling sad, upset, disappointed, angry. And so because of that, some of my reactions to you might feel like I'm upset at you, but it's not.
Yes. So, quick thought. If your kids are not your friends, does that make them food? Because fish are friends, not
It's
food,
not
but
food.
kids are.
I mean, when they were babies, I did just want to eat them up. So what is it about parents? They're like, oh my God, I just want to eat you. And they nibble on their little thighs.
I don't know. Maybe it's leftover from our instinct to eat our kids. I don't know. Something. That's something that I do too. And it's very useful with our kids because we were talking earlier, our kids don't always have the ability to process things as not personal, even when we've already started teaching them that there are things that happen that aren't personal. They just don't have the brain power to do that. But one, the more we do it, it helps. And two, I completely lost my train of thought. So that one's done. But we were just talking about that. They don't always have. Oh, I know where I was going with that. Okay. So the more we do that with them now, because my kids are a little bit older, so I'm a little bit further along in that, right? Mm-hmm. They're able to come to me and say, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I'm having a bad day. And so we're like, cool, awesome. I can expect that you might have feelings that have nothing to do with me. I
had a similar experience with my son. He didn't say like, oh, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but like he at told me he needed space. He was upset about something, and I was trying to help or ask him a question or something, and he was like, I just need some space right now. Can you please leave me alone so I don't get angry and yell at you? And I was like, yep, absolutely. And I walked away.
That's kind of like our mantra in our house is like, you can have all of the feelings that you have, and we are never ever going to tell you that those feelings aren't valid, but you don't get to be an asshole. And
Right.
so like, that's one of the things, call it right, wrong, whatever, that we've used to also call out our kids when they are being assholes because they're having big feelings, is like, have your feelings, but you don't get to be a dick about it. And right now you're towing that line. Like, we need to, like, what can we do to, so we have like a punching bag, and we have, they can go in the garage and scream their head off. Like, we provide them all these outlets to express those bigger feelings that they can't necessarily wrap their mind around, but they're just like sitting there and like boiling and like, and I feel like that's so important. I feel like I look back and I'm like, what would my childhood have been like if I didn't have to internalize every quote unquote negative feeling that I had? Because negative feelings aren't bad, because they're not actually negative. They're just information.
I also saw something on Instagram the other day that said, my mind was blown when my therapist told me that when I experience anger, there's another emotion that I'm experiencing that I'm ignoring, but I feel more comfortable with the anger than the other emotion.
This is very true. I actually was having that conversation with somebody the other day, and they were experiencing big feelings about a situation. And I was like, the only time you ever say, very blunt things about your feelings about a specific person that you're struggling with is when you are struggling with feeling sad about things. So like, and this is an observation that I've made just in general in working with people. You take somebody who doesn't call people a bitch very often, and they're like, oh, they're such a bitch, she's such a bitch, whatever. And like, then you see the sadness show up. And I'm like, oh, so like, this was you trying to be angry about it, even though it's very, very out of character for you to talk about people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, here's the sadness. Every time.
So I saw this thing on Instagram last week, I think. And then Wednesday, today's Friday. So Wednesday, something happened between a friend and I, and my immediate response was anger. And so then I thought to myself, I was like, wait, what else is it? And I was like, oh, it's disappointment.
Yes.
A lot of disappointment here.
And that's one thing
as well.
Yeah. I get it. It happens. And that's another thing too, is like, when we talk about our feelings, like, even people who can name their emotions, typically they're surface level emotions. There's like 6 people will be like, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. And then
hold on. I don't know if it's right here. Probably not, because I want it to be right here.
Is it your feelings wheel?
Yes. And I saw it. And I put it in a stack of papers.
You put it in a safe place so you know where it is.
Well, no, I thought this is a terrible place to put it, but where it belongs is already at my new place. Like, somehow I took it out to use it and never put it back, and I already moved the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put it here and I'll find it eventually.
Today is not that day.
It's not that day.
I want the pillow. I want the feelings wheel pillow.
For a friend, I have a friend who's a therapist, and a couple of years ago for Christmas, I got her like a big poster one off of Etsy and framed it for her office. Maybe I should do that for me.
Yes. I actually like handmade some to like try and do that so that it was in a central location in the house. So when people were having feelings, we could go over to the feelings wall and talk about them. But they got destroyed in the move, and I never did anything about that. But yeah, being able to get down deeper into our emotions is, I mean, one, we're kind of taught that, feelings are bad and we should just ignore them and shove them down instead of feeling them. But then two, people start telling you, oh, you should feel your feelings, but nobody really shows you or tells you like how to get deeper in your feelings. They just tell you you should do it more. And like one of the things I told one of my teenagers, I was like, I literally, when I was learning out how to do this for myself, I literally went through the dictionary and looked up definitions. I used the thesaurus to get to the most accurate description of my feelings because, I am, so a couple, I don't even, time means nothing. What are we talking about? A while ago.
Months ago, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, somewhere.
Now.
Pre-pandemic, right after the pandemic started. Like those are the two times.
The new BC is before COVID.
Yes, exactly. But I had an experience where my partner had made a commitment to do something, and they left to go spend time with somebody else without following through on that commitment. And because I had gotten really good, I was able to say to them, like, hey, I'm really upset about this, but I was able to be really specific. Whereas before I would have been like, I'm angry. And I wasn't angry. I was frustrated. And I was a little bit disappointed that they made a commitment to me that they didn't keep. But if I had said I was angry, then they would have been picturing me, stomping around angrily folding socks at people. And that just wasn't accurate because it was just more of a, well, this sucks. But being able to accurately express that also made just the communication go that much better because, I mean, part of it is we have built up that trust in communication, but also they weren't picturing the worst because I was not explaining the worst. I was not presenting it to them as the worst case scenario. So they didn't get defensive. They didn't get like, well, and start reacting to my anger when it wasn't really anger. But that takes practice, and emotional intelligence and emotional feelings is handling needs to be taught in school. I mean, we do it in preschool, but that's about it. Like it stops after preschool. And I don't know why, because it's not like our feelings stop. But what do I know? What you looking for?
I got distracted.
This is why it's ADHD and coaching corner. Like,
I'm looking for the fucking appointment for the groomers on my calendar. Right. Clearly, very important things.
I mean, clearly that's what's important to you now. But that's one of the things that I like about our friendship and our working relationship is like, there's no like stigma attached to the fact that there's constantly a fidget toy or like your brain just goes somewhere else and you're like not even aware.
It's just like, oh no, this thought popped in my head. And if I don't address it right now, who knows when it's coming back, if it comes back.
Exactly. It's, the more people I have who are neurodivergent in my circle, the more I realize, like, how did I ever survive in a neurotypical world?
Having a partner with ADHD is so great. Yesterday, I hired movers to move me. And afterwards I had to clean the apartment, right? I'm 98% done with everything. And I'm sitting there doing nothing. And I texted him and I was like, I'm currently doing that ADHD thing where I'm 98% done. And rather than just finishing the 2% and being done, I'm literally sitting on my ass doing nothing. And he was like, oh my God, I know that.
I get that feeling.
Yes. And I also had the thought, I was like, I'm so happy that I now know that that behavior is very common for people with ADHD. Because before I used to just tell myself, oh my God, I'm so lazy. Like I'm so close to being done. What's wrong with me that I can't just get up and do the thing?
That's mine. Does yours always end in doom piles too? Mine always stops at the doom piles. I have the piles created. Did you know that doom actually stands for something?
No.
Didn't organize, only moved.
I didn't know.
Wait, what? This is so true. I have a pile of shit next to my wall in my room that is literally shit that has just been moved for the last 7 years.
Yeah. 2 days ago, we're getting ready for the movers, and my partner is like helping me in my apartment, and there's a trunk, and I have it labeled Chastity's office, and I was like, that is a doom box. I put a bunch of things in there, and I shoved it under my bed, and now it's time to move, and we're just moving the doom box. He was like, okay, good to know. Also, it's heavy.
Yep. I actually have two. I have a doom pile and a whole extra doom box in my room. And one of my friends was like, so like I can come help you work through it. We did parallel working. They were working on something else. And I cleared out 3/4 of my doom pile of stuff. And it's still sitting there and it's grown. And I'm like, maybe I should see if they want to come back over and hang out. But in all fairness, most of what's left is stuff that needs to be scanned in and digitally organized, and fuck that shit.
Right.
Do not want, do not need, none of it. It will probably stay there until
you hire somebody else to do it.
Yes, probably. If I remember to do that.
Maybe your coach will remind you one day.
Yeah, possibly. Maybe.
If she remembers.
And then I can just tell her to sort through her doom trunk. I mean, if she has such a thing, I can't imagine that she would.
I bet she doesn't.
No, there's no way. Yeah. We went way off base from like making yourself small, but
well, everything was like
connected though.
Tangentially relevant.
Yes. But I mean, that's pretty much what we envisioned when we started doing this too. Right. Is like we start somewhere and who the fuck knows where we end up.
It's always someplace good. We always end up someplace good.
Right. No regrets at all. But it makes me think that I want a tattoo now. Don't ask me why.
We were just talking about that tattoo last night.
Really? It's like great minds or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yep. I need to go take a shower.
Okay.
I got a massage today, and like the whatever oil she used on me, I don't know what kind. It's like flaking off of me.
That does not sound pleasant.
Snake, like white flaky things. So
you should go around and just start flickering your tongue when you talk to people.
I can't because I'm tongue tied.
Oh, well then don't do that. I don't know. I'm not tongue tied and I probably still can't do it. That's one of the things that one of my partner makes fun of me is like, I can't do like repetitive motions as fast as they can. And so like they'll sit there and do like some sort of like fast tapping or something, and like I'll try to do it and I'm like And it makes them laugh every time.
Yeah, that's what I'm like when I like go to a Zumba class or something. I like see the things that people are doing, and I'm like,
The slow motion version of it. Yep. And then because they're moving so much faster, your brain can't keep up. So then you think this step is next when really it's this step. And
yep. I went to a Zumba class once.
and I'll never do
It was a beginner's class, and still the instructor had to come up to me individually and be like, "Can I help you?" And I was like,
Probably
"I don't
not.
actually know if you can. I mean, you're welcome to try."
Yeah. All right. You go shower. I'm going to go not shower.
Enjoy. Bye.
Bye.